And the fat guy's wearing a striped shirt. How are you doing there? I'm going to give you a perfect example. Yeah? There's some things that I'm an expert on. Obviously, I don't make videos about car repair. I can fix computers and a lot of stuff. But I've been translating ancient Pali now for ages and ages. And I don't know if you know this or not. You may or may not. And also, too, first let's start off by saying, people say, why don't you ever discuss religions? And I actually have nothing to do with religions whatsoever. I'm only interested in metaphysics, truth, logic, and wisdom. I'm interested in the early articles of certain aspects of very, very fine, meaning wise and important metaphysics. And it's also the reason why 95% of the world's philosophical importance is found in either ancient Pali or Sanskrit, and also too in ancient Greek. Let's talk about this term anatta. And getting on to Wikipedia here, I don't know if you know this or not about Wikipedia, which is easily one of the most evil websites on the internet. Now, if you want to know when like some sort of vapid Hollywood star was born, or who they are dating, I mean, you could get information like that. Not that I ever looked that stuff up. But anything that's actually important, you will never find the right information there. But that's always the place that people go when they want the answer to something. So, as the world, and this is no exaggeration, as the world's foremost expert on the topic of anatta and anatman, which every Buddhist, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to use that word, every Buddhist today will say is a fundamental tenet of its teachings. Let's take a look at two important things. You can go to the Wikipedia page for anatta. And by the way, Wikipedia, of course, is where random, unknown entities, dwelling in the basements, edit the page. And it's not like it used to be where people would drastically edit. I mean, if you edit something there now, not that I do, it will be instantly looked at and corrected. And Wikipedia, by and large, is truth by consensus. And one of the most evil words, as I've said over and over again, is the word consensus. Consensus equals popular, equals profane, equals base and low. Anything that is popular is consensus, and whatever is popular is no different. In the ancient Pali, by the way, the word for profane, or patujana, sounds like you're spitting, is also the same word for popular or common. Because if it's common, popular, it's profane. Anyway, let's correct the nonsense on this. And I have an article, which is in the link below, that I wrote. It's about 12 pages long. I give you countless dozens, many dozens of passages, and I actually also, too, cited all occurrences of compounds of the term anatta, which is the Pali for the Sanskrit word anatman. So let's read from the Wikipedia page entry. And this is what everybody in the world will go to if they want to know about the specific term, because from the standpoint of Buddhists, sorry, all of Buddhism spins upon the definition of this one word. Yeah? It's literally that important, because they think this is different than Hinduism. And let's actually look at the facts. Let's, with wisdom, facts, and logic, look at the truth. I'm going to read now from Wikipedia. Sorry. Anatta is a central doctrine of Buddhism. Actually, it's not. It marks one of the major differences between Buddhism and Hinduism. Let's first start off with the doctrine. It's not a doctrine at all. Anatta is only said of that which is profane, evil, aimara, rupanatta, vedanatta, sankaranatta, namarup. And why am I speaking Pali? Nobody understands me. It's in reference to what is not the self, not the soul. And so let's actually go into the Hinduism part, and let's go to the anatta thing last year. Now, this is from Deshmukha Religion in Vedic Literature, page 198. The word Hinduism comes from the word Sindhu, the Indo-Aryas word for the sea, and came to apply to the peoples in the region east of the Indus River. The word Hinduism has no connection to any religion at all, but a people in an area. From the point of view of religion, the Vedic literature divides itself on and on. Anyway, here's another passage. Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics. 2.799b. The word Brahmanism seems to originally have been used popularly. Found misconception, never usually, well, that was actually in reference to Brahmana, excuse me. Let's go into Encyclopedia of Religion 6.712. That was a reference to something else that I just mentioned. Hinduism has never prepared a body of canonical scriptures or common prayer book, has never held a general council or convocation, never defined relationship between laity and clergy, never regulated the canons. The point is there's no such thing as a religion. And if there is any Indian people watching, they will say as much in the comments because this is undeniable. There's no such thing as Hinduism. It's not a religion. There is no religion as Hinduism. That's not my feeling or my opinion or my belief. There's no such thing as a religion of Hinduism. They say, well, what are the folks in India do? I mean, there's Bhakti Yoga, there's Advaita Vedanta, there's 1,000 different things. And they call it the Sanatana Dharma collectively. But there's no such thing as a religion of Hinduism. So the passage from Wikipedia that, and you'll find this millions of other places on the web. If you type in, what does anatta or anatman mean? Same term, Sanskrit versus Pali. And they'll say, well, this is where Buddhism is different than Hinduism. It's like, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as Hinduism. It refers to a people, not a metaphysics, not a belief, and not a religion. There's no such thing as a Hindu religion. Once again, that's not my feeling or what I'm telling you. It's a hardcore fact. Once again, my article about anatta is below. Now let's go to the very first part here, where it talks about the anatta. First mention, in Buddhism, the term anatta, or anatman, Sanskrit, as I've already told you, refers to a doctrine of no self. There's no unchanging permanent soul. No such passage, and the corpus is huge. Depends on what the font is in the books. I have several different translators. I'm a member of the Pali Text Society. Been translating Pali now for over 23 years. There is literally, and I mean this not in an egotistical boast, there's nobody on this earth that knows more about this term than I do. I've written many articles about it. I wrote a very concise article, about 12 pages long, in the link below. There's no such thing as a doctrine of anatta, or anatman. It's not found in, by the way, the only pre-sectarian corpus referred to in the Pillar Edicts of King Ashok, and mentioned Panch Nikaya, or the five Nikayas, Digha Nikaya, Majjhima, Anguttara, Samyutta, and Kodaku Nikaya, which is a collection of Udana, Itivuttaka, on and on and on and on. There is no such thing as a doctrine of no soul. There is only that which is not the soul. It's common Indian metaphysics, and also too Greek via negativa. This is not the soul, that's not the soul, on and on and on. Several things are given appellations that have not been the soul. There is only that which is not the soul. There is no such thing as a doctrine of no soul. No such passage in any such translation, any translation on earth, exists. It does not exist anywhere. Does not. Rupa anatta, Veda anatta, Sankara anatta, Vijnana anatta, Nama rupa anattati. If Buddhism literally taught, and I've said this before countless times, and nobody seems to have the brain to understand this, seemingly so, is that if Buddhism actually taught originally, anyway, we're talking about the original, we're not talking about those yellow-robed guys in Southeast Asia, Laos, Burma, Ceylon, Thailand, not talking about those guys who came from the Saraswatiwadins, who later became the Theravadins. Those are those yellow-robed guys in Southeast Asia. Now, it has nothing to do with Nepal. It has nothing to do with Tibet. Nothing to do with Zen. I'm talking about the original article here, okay? The basis, the pre-sectarian corpus, before all that stuff ever manifested. And that pre-sectarian corpus was recorded, mentioned on Panch Nikaya, on the Pillar Edict of King Ashok. I think the 13th Pillar Edict of King Ashok. Panch Nikaya, pre-sectarian. Okay, the first sects didn't come around until the 1st century BCE, or CE, Saraswatiwadins. Well, I don't get into that topic, but there is no such thing as a doctrine of no soul. No such passage in any translation by BB. I don't know if you know about Pali. I'm not going to say his name. His initials are BB. Not even him. There is only that which is not the self. Not the this is not the. It's coming via negativa, neti apophatic methodology for disubjectification from that which is equal to Mara. The only time it is asked within the Nikayas, which is a huge corpus, and I could cite book and verse. I mean, most people have a hard time citing book and verse on a book as small as the Bible. Bible is really small. We're talking about the corpus of the 5 Nikayas here. Is Samyutta Nikaya 3.196, where it says, Anatta, Venerable One. What does the word Anatta mean? Simply this, anatta is rupa, form is not the soul, this is not the soul, so on and so forth. Also, two passages prior to that, anatta is to be maradama. In other words, the prakriti, or essence of evil, of what is foul, i.e. mara. Mara is the personification of existential evil, materialistic manifestation of the desire thereof, literally called the evil one. So, all of these people saying all this ridiculous non-doctrinal, that's what religion is. Not only is it illogical, it's not even doctrinal. It's like, well, let's just forget religion and let's forget metaphysics. Does this make any sense? You have transcendence, but nobody that obtains transcendence. You have liberation, but nothing that attains liberation. And actually, if you ever ask those questions to these people that are have never used or exercised their brains, well, to them it's just like blowing out a candle or flushing the toilet of cosmic oblivion. I said, well, that's completely ludicrous. It would be better to travel endlessly throughout samsara, literally hell, if you will. Samsara means to go round and round and round. It'd be better to travel round and round for all eternity than to it's not even possible, but from their heretical premise to extinguish oneself in a metaphysical sense akin to cosmic oblivion. And not only is it impossible, there's no such thing ever mentioned. It's like, well, that's what nirvana is. No, actually nirvana in Doctrine says suvimutta cittasana bandham. It says the thoroughly liberated nous or spiritus sancta means nirvana. In other words, that's the element the element which is consubstantial with the psychophysical, which of course the fool identifies with, that person in the mirror, the persona non grata. This, and I keep getting asked this question, so why do you have such an aversion, to religion? And I've just given you a perfect example. Nobody exercises their minds, they just follow silly belief systems. Anything that follows after the words, I believe, is always just nonsense and rubbish. Like, what do you believe? I believe, what do you believe? I don't care what anybody believes. I'm not even trying to even put forward any beliefs of mine. Let's just talk about facts, logic, and wisdom. In this case, if we're actually going to have a pro forma intellectual debate on what Buddhism did or did not teach, lacking a time machine, there is a pre-sectarian corpus. Pre-sectarian means before all that other stuff which we have today, some of which doesn't exist anymore, is roaming around our world, those yellow-robed guys in Southeast Asia. That's not original. It's like, well, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about what those guys teach? I thought we were having, in my theoretical debate here, I thought we were going to have a discussion about what earliest Buddhism did or did not teach. Well, everything changes. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. If we're going to have a debate on Buddhism, the original article, we're going to actually refer to the only pre-sectarian corpus that exists. And by the way, there's no such thing as a Tipitaka. Tipitaka is, I don't want to make a reference here because I don't have to reference another religion to make analogy to this. This stuff that's tacked on much later, and there's all this ethical garbage that was tacked on by sectarianists. So you have the original Nikayas, but then you actually have this corpus of 3 completely heterogeneous things. So there's no such thing as a Tipitaka, by the way. If you're going to use the word Tipitaka on me, forget about it. That's completely nonsensical. They're completely autonomous, wholly different works separated out by well over 1,000 years, depending on which version of Abhidhamma, which has nothing to do with original Buddhism at all. No connection to original Buddhism at all. Only the Nikayas do. Yeah, and this is, of course, from Wikipedia. So, this Central Doctrine of Buddhism. This is where Buddhism differs from Hinduism. Well, it's completely ludicrous. There's not a single person within Advaita Vedanta who thinks that the term Anatman means, well, because the central point of liberation transcendence, of course, of Advaita Vedanta, same as Buddhism, is that they don't deny the soul. I mean, it's completely ludicrous. There's not a single person on earth that ever thought that Advaita Vedanta denied the soul, but they use the term Anatman also, except in Sanskrit, the exact same term. The term Anatman is found in the Upanishads. No one on earth thinks that the Upanishads teach that there's no soul. The exact same term, except two different languages, Sanskrit and Pali. Anatman found in the Upadisahasrita Vachudamuni of Advaita Vedanta, and its founder, Sri Shankaracharya. Advaita Vedanta is actually part of Sanatana Dharma. He just founded the condensation thereof of Advaita Vedanta. But this term is found within the Upanishads and Advaita Vedanta. What on earth makes you think that Buddhism is any different? Like, ooh, Buddhism is something totally different. Now, and here's a fact also. From the premise of these people who write Wikipedia and these people that are in this, belief system nonsense, which I have no interest in at all, aka religion, the Buddha of the Sakya clan, or Siddhartha Gautama, was like walking the countryside, like, and I'm going to teach something totally different than all this Hinduism. Completely ridiculous. I'm going to teach something totally different than all this Hinduism stuff. That's just ludicrous. It's just completely hairball asinine. It's absolutely full tilt crazy. It's full tilt crazy. That's completely ludicrous beyond the pale. It's so ludicrous it just makes me want to scream like a schoolgirl. It's just so funny. I can do that too, by the way. But this is what you'll find, and it's not just Wikipedia. It's all over the internet. If you type in on any search engine, Anatta or Anatman, you see, this is where Buddhism is different. It taught that there was no soul. Well, there is absolutely no passage at all. And not only is there no such passage at all within Doctrine, it says just the opposite. The only word that is called permanent and eternal is the soul. Atta Vasarati, the soul is charioteer. There's countless Atta Sarana, Ainana Sarana, the soul is refuge with no other refuge than the soul. And that passage occurs over and over and over again. Of all forms of solidified belief systems, the big R word, I can think of no other that is so close to being so completely incorrect. Everything today is in these, and this is why I have nothing to do with these. I don't touch them. People say, "Do you ever hang out with Buddhists?" No, I don't. Why don't you? Because I had nothing to do with people that are don't know anything about what it is they claim to love so much. It's really, it's not surprising, but it is ludicrous. It's like, well, how could you know so little about something that you say you based your whole life in? I mean, you've never studied anything that it actually teaches. Well, I don't have to. I just believe. That's what a religion is. It's not metaphysics. That's not facts, logic, wisdom. That's why I have nothing to do with any of those folks. They don't know anything. They don't want to know anything. There's a difference between being ignorant and loving ignorance. It's like, I don't know this, but I would like to learn. That's ignorance, but you want to know. Versus, I don't know and I don't want to know. I'm happy where I am, just don't need to know that stuff. So you don't want to know anything. It's kind of like, almost like, I don't know, some of these people that love cars, but they don't want to ever open up the hood and work on an engine. Someone that really loves cars wants to know how the engine works and how to fix them and how to do stuff. They can build them and take them apart and fix them themselves. Some people just like polishing the car and driving the car. It's like, that's all I need to know, man. If it breaks down, I take it to the mechanic. It's like, well, you don't know anything about cars. I like to drive them. Oh, anyway, I hope I made my point in this video. And by the way, the link for that article that I wrote is below about Anatta. It is really deep, and it is one tough article. You may or may not be able to make your way through it, even though it's only about 12 pages long. It's tough. It's got a lot of citations in it. Some people don't like that. Makes you think. Goodbye. Oh, Lordy.